Captain Elias Wren opened his eyes to the soft hum of the station's morning tone. Light filtered through the artificial skylight above his bed, mimicking an Earth sunrise. He stretched, groaned, and rubbed his eyes, ready to begin another ordinary day on Sawyer 7, the neutral diplomatic hub between dozens of alien worlds. He rolled over, picked up his datapad from the nightstand, and tapped it on. Notification, spousal assignment, confirmed species, Inari name, Tellera status, incoming. Elias blinked, then read it again, spousal assignment. He sat up quickly, heart pounding. What the pote before he could even ask the AI for details. His room's sleek silver door let out a soft chime and Chef slid open. Standing in the doorway was a small figure, about 5 feet tall, wrapped in smooth, silver and blue fabric that shimmered like soft light. Her skin was pale lavender, her large silver eyes sparkled like stars, and she carried a small bag over one shoulder. She smiled warmly and bowed her head in the traditional Inari greeting. "You've been assigned a wife." "It's me," she said, her voice gentle and melodic. "My name is Tellera." Elias blinked. "Excuse me." She stepped inside without hesitation, placing her bag gently on the floor. Her movements were calm, graceful, and purposeful, like a dancer or a scholar. She folded her hands neatly in front of her. "I understand this is a surprise, but the Galactic Peace Accord includes cultural integration laws. Your species was approved for full alliance 2 months ago. One of the policies includes emotional pairing." Elias stared at her, dumbfounded. Emotional ... pairing, like marriage. Precisely. The Alliance believes that long-term peace is supported by emotional understanding between species. Pairing humans with partners from different civilizations is seen as a strong step forward. He rubbed his forehead, confused and overwhelmed. "But I didn't sign anything. No one told me about this." Tellera tilted her head slightly, her silver eyes calm and sincere. "It is automatic. Every registered officer above age 30 was placed into the pool. Your profile matched with mine, matched like a dating app." Tellera blinked slowly. "Not quite. More like a diplomatic partnership with emotional benefits." Elias stared. "That's worse." She chuckled lightly, not offended, perhaps at first. "But I think you'll find I am quite easy to live with. I enjoy cooking, I meditate often, and I have excellent emotional awareness." Elias stood up, still in his gray sleep shirt, and paced the room. "This has to be a mistake. I'm not ready for this. I'm a diplomat, not a husband," she offered helpfully. He gave her a sharp look. "I was trained for this," she added calmly. "My role is not to burden you, it is to understand you, support you, and help you feel at peace during your time here." Elias let out a frustrated sigh. "Is this happening to all humans?" "Yes. Not just humans. Several young species were added to the program this year. It is meant to build bridges of empathy. Love and understanding are tools of peace." "And if I refuse?" he asked. Tellera looked thoughtful. "You may file an appeal, but the process may take between 8 to 12 lunar cycles depending on your planetary region." "Of course it does," Elias muttered. She stepped forward, her expression softening. "Captain Wren, I am not here to disrupt your life. If you wish, I will sleep in the guest room and speak only when needed. But I do hope, ... over time, you will allow me to share your space. I promise to be kind." Elias studied her. She looked calm, confident, not afraid or unsure. She hadn't forced herself and she'd simply walked in with the quiet certainty that this was already her home. He scratched the back of his neck. "So ... what now?" Tellera smiled gently. "Now I prepare breakfast. I read that humans enjoy coffee in the morning. You read about humans. I studied your culture before I volunteered," she said, walking toward the small kitchen unit. "Many Inari did not want to join the program, but I was curious. Your people feel deeply. You dream even in danger. I found that ... beautiful." Elias sat down slowly at the edge of the bed. This was not how he had expected his day to begin. Assigned a wife, a petite alien wife, one who apparently knew how he liked his coffee. He watched her as she moved around the kitchen with graceful efficiency. She seemed so sure of herself, calm and poised, like she was meant to be here. He, on the other hand, felt like he'd fallen into someone else's life. Tellera placed a mug of steaming coffee in front of him. It smelled perfect. How did she even know his exact preference? "I read your profile. You enjoy medium roast with 2 drops of honey." He took the mug slowly. "You really did your homework." She sat across from him at the small table, sipping her own glowing blue tea. "I take my role seriously. If we are to share space, it should be peaceful. I do not like conflict." Elias looked around his room, now their room, and took a long breath. I'm not sure what to think of all this, he said honestly. Telira nodded. That is natural, but emotions are like stars. Even if they seem far away, they still shine, and eventually, you learn to follow them. He wasn't sure what to say to that, so he took another sip of coffee. It was the best cup he'd had in weeks. Captain Elias Wren adjusted the collar of his uniform and sighed deeply as he looked at himself in the mirror. It had been 3 days since Telera arrived, and life had not been the same since Dot. She was polite, she was peaceful, she was incredibly calm, and she followed him everywhere, not in a creepy way. No, Telera made sure to respect space and time, but she appeared beside him at meals, walked next to him to his office, and even brought him warm tea during long meetings. At first, Elias tried to avoid her, but avoiding someone who lived with you and worked 2 doors down was nearly impossible, especially when that someone could sense emotions. Today he was getting ready for an important negotiation to rival Planet Scroller and Fentari were arguing over mineral rights. The tension was rising fast. The last meeting nearly ended with a chair thrown at someone's head. Elias walked out of his quarters, datapad in hand. Telira was already waiting for him in the corridor, dressed in her soft blue robes. She gave him a warm smile. Good morning, Captain. You're early, Elias said, trying not to sound annoyed. I sensed you were anxious, she replied kindly. It is often better to walk together during stressful days. He sighed. You're not going to stop doing that, are you? I only follow where I am needed. Elias didn't argue. Somehow, she always had an answer that sounded peaceful but gave no room to fight back. They walked down the silver halls of Sorius Saturn past alien officers of all shapes and sizes. Elias noticed more glances than usual. Some nodded with amused expressions. A few smiled. Others whispered. He groaned softly. They think we're really married, aren't we? She asked, calm as ever. It was a registration glitch, Elias muttered. I didn't choose this, but I did, she said quietly. And I don't regret it. That stopped him for a moment. He glanced at her. Why, you don't know me. I read your reports, your mission logs. I listened to your recorded interviews with young diplomats. You care deeply. You try to do what's right, even when no one notices. That is rare. Elias didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. They reached the main conference room. Inside, representatives from Kroller and Fentari were already seated, staring at each other with cold eyes. The moment Elias entered, both parties began talking over each other. Loudly. Elias stepped forward, trying to calm things down. But then, Tilira stepped beside him and placed one hand lightly on the table. She closed her eyes. A faint blue glow shimmered at her fingertips. Everyone fell silent. Then she spoke, gently. I sense anger but also fear. Both sides feel unheard. Let us begin again, not as enemies, but as voices for your people. A quiet filled the room. The Kroller ambassador, who had been red-faced a moment ago, lowered his head slightly. The Fentari diplomat unclenched his hands. Elias watched, stunned. In all his years, he had never seen such a tense meeting settle so quickly. The talks continued, for hours, but the tone had changed. It was less about shouting, more about listening. At the end, a temporary agreement was signed. A true deal would take weeks, but today was progress. As the others left the room, Elias stayed behind. He turned to Telera. Down 2 of the angriest people in the galaxy. How did you do that? Telera smiled gently. We in Ari are taught to feel what others feel. If we understand pain, we can ease it. He looked at her for a moment. You saved the meeting. I supported you. You saved the meeting, she replied, then added with a smile, we are a team now, aren't we? Elias didn't respond, but he didn't argue either. Later that evening, Elias sat in his living quarters, staring at a plant he didn't remember buying. Telira had placed it in the corner. It brings balance, she had said earlier. Humans respond well to green colors. It calms the brain. He shook his head. This was not normal. She was helpful, yes, but it still felt strange. Having someone there, always. Just then, the door chimed. Come in, he called. Tilira entered, holding 2 bowls of something warm and smelling like cinnamon and sea herbs. I made dinner in Ari food, but with human-safe ingredients. Raised an eyebrow. You're cooking now, too. I enjoy cooking. It is another way of expressing care. Elias accepted the bowl. The soup was odd but tasty, sweet and salty with soft vegetables floating inside. Not bad, he said honestly. I'm glad you like it. They sat in silence for a few minutes, eating slowly. Finally, Elias put down his bowl and leaned back. I still don't know if I'm ready for this, he said. Marriage or whatever this is, I understand, she replied, placing her bowl aside. Humans build trust with time. That is fair. I didn't grow up with much of this closeness, Elias admitted. My job became my life. And now suddenly, someone's calling themselves my wife. It's a lot. Telera nodded. I will not push you. I did not come to change your path. I only wish to walk beside it. Elias looked at her. She wasn't joking. She wasn't playing a role. She was serious and honest. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. I still think this whole assignment thing is strange, he said finally. It is, she agreed. But sometimes, strange things lead to beautiful ones. He laughed, a soft, tired laugh. You always talk like a poet, only when I feel it is needed. They sat quietly for a while. The plant in the corner rustled softly in the recycled air. After a long pause, Elias spoke. You know, maybe we could try being friends first. Telera smiled warmly. That would be a wonderful beginning. Captain Elias Wren had never been to an Inari festival before. He wasn't even sure what to expect. Bright colors, strange music, aliens doing odd dances. He certainly hadn't expected glowing flowers, soft floating lights, and peaceful music. That felt like a breeze touching your soul. Telera walked beside him in a shimmering white robe, her silver eyes glowing in the moonlight. They were at the Soria Garden Dome where the annual Inari Moonbond Festival was being held. Around them, dozens of different species were enjoying the quiet celebration. Soft lights floated above their heads like slow-moving stars. A gentle wind from the garden fans blew through tall, glowing grass. Some couples sat near the pond, others danced slowly under large crystal trees that changed color with each step. Elias looked around, both curious and uncomfortable. I feel like I'm underdressed, he said, glancing at his simple black uniform. Telera smiled. You look fine. The festival is not about fashion, it's about connection. Connection, Elias repeated. Unsure, right? She led him toward a tall archway made of crystal vines. This is the Bond Walk. It's a tradition. Two souls walk beneath the arch while holding a light between them. If the light stays bright, it means they are emotionally linked. Elias paused. And what happens if the light fades? Nothing bad, she said gently. It simply means the link is not strong yet. But sometimes, the walk reveals things neither person expected. He scratched his head. Telera, is this a date? She looked up at him with a soft smile. Only if you want it to be. Elias didn't answer, but he didn't pull away either. Something about this place felt peaceful, safe. He hadn't felt this calm in a long time. Telera pulled out a small glass orb from her robe. Inside it glowed a soft blue light. Shall we walk? Elias hesitated, then took the orb carefully. His fingers brushed hers, and for a moment he felt something warm, not heat, but comfort. They stepped under the arch, side by side. High as they walked. The orb began to glow brighter. Elias noticed the light and looked at her in surprise. Is that supposed to happen so fast? Telera seemed surprised too. It usually takes time. The orb glowed steadily even as they reached the end of the walk. A few Inari nearby noticed and clapped softly. Elias didn't know what to feel. What does this mean? Telera turned toward him. It means we understand each other more than we thought. Before he could reply, a loud chime rang through the dome. Breaking news from Galactic Channel 7, a voice said through the air. Earth diplomat Elias Wren has just completed the Bond Walk with his assigned partner Telera at the Inari Festival. Some officials believe this marks a true cross-species emotional link. Elias's eyes widened. Wait, are we on the news? Telera looked up as several floating drones hovered nearby, recording. He groaned. Oh no, my mother watches that channel. One drone zoomed closer. Captain Wren, do you confirm your bond with Telera as emotional and intentional? He raised his hands. No comment. Turn that thing off. The drones finally pulled back, giving them space. Elias sighed and rubbed his forehead. This is turning into a circus. Telera placed a hand on his arm. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to become public. He looked at her and sighed. It's not your fault. The galaxy just loves drama. They left the garden and returned to their shared quarters in silence. Later that night, Elias stood on the balcony of their room, looking up at the stars. Telera joined him, a warm drink in each hand. She handed him one, caffeine-free this time. I noticed your heart rate went up after the news drones. He took the drink with a tired smile. You really notice everything, don't you? Try. They stood there for a while, just watching the stars. The garden lights below shimmered like water. Ira broke the silence. You did not have to walk with me tonight. I know this bond was not your choice. Elias turned to her. You didn't force me either. No, but I hoped. I thought maybe, if we walked together, you'd see something good in this. He took a deep breath. I did. She looked at him, surprised I mean. He continued, I don't understand everything yet, but tonight, I wasn't thinking about work or stress. I was just, present with you. And that hasn't happened in a long time. Tellera's voice was soft. That's all I hoped for. A quiet moment passed. Then, without thinking, Elias reached up and brushed a strand of glowing hair away from her face. She froze, eyes wide. For a moment, the air between them changed. They were standing closer than before. Their eyes met. But before anything more could happen, Elias stepped back. I should probably get some sleep, he said awkwardly. Smiled gently, but didn't look hurt, of course. Rest well, Elias. He nodded and walked back inside, closing the door behind him. Tellera stayed on the balcony for a while longer, looking up at the stars. The next morning, the diplomatic council sent a message to Elias's datapad. Urgent due to public attention. Captain Elias Wren and Inari citizen Tellera are invited to represent Earth-Inari unity at the upcoming peace summit. Elias groaned. Great. Now we're a symbol. Tellera entered the room, sipping tea. Good morning, I saw the message. You're not bothered. She shook her head. I've always wanted to make a difference. Perhaps this is how. He looked at her and smiled slightly. You really believe we can be more than just an assignment? I believe we already are. Captain Elias Wren stood in front of the mirror, once again adjusting the collar of his new formal jacket. It was dark navy with silver trim, the official outfit for Earth's representatives at high-level diplomatic summits. The crest of the United Terran Alliance shone over his heart. He was nervous. The peace summit between the Inari and the Trivox coalition was the biggest diplomatic event of the year. The galaxy's eyes were watching, and for the first time, Elias wasn't going. A lone dot behind him, Tellera stood in a soft lavender robe lined with white symbols. Her silver hair was braided neatly down her back. She looked peaceful, but Elias could sense her focus. Her fingers glowed faintly, an Inari sign of preparation. You're quiet, she said gently. Elias nodded. I'm just thinking. About the summit, about everything, he admitted. The cameras, the crowds, the politicians pretending to care. And us. She tilted her head. Us. He sighed and turned to face her. It's strange. A few weeks ago, I didn't even know your name. Now I can't go anywhere without someone asking if we're truly bonded. Tellera smiled softly. Does that bother you? I don't know, he answered honestly. I didn't plan this. I didn't ask for it, but I don't dislike it either. She stepped closer. Then maybe the universe is doing something unexpected. Not wrong, just unexpected. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Let's go do our job. The summit hall on Navax Station was made of polished crystal and light-reflecting walls. Long tables floated slightly above the floor. Hundreds of species from across the galaxy were seated, each wearing their cultural clothing. When Elias and Tellera entered, dozens of cameras turned in their direction. Earth and Inari delegation arriving, an announcer said. The room quieted for a moment. Elias straightened his shoulders. Tellera walked calmly beside him, her presence grounding. They took their seats near the front, facing the Trivox leaders across the table. Ambassador Dren, a tall scaled Trivox male with golden eyes, narrowed his gaze at Elias. So Dren said, his voice low, the famous human with the assigned wife. Some laughter rose from the side of the room. Elias smiled politely. I didn't ask for the title, Ambassador, but I do take partnership seriously both in diplomacy and life. Dren smirked. We'll see if your bond brings peace or just more attention. Before Elias could reply, Tellera spoke. Peace comes not from titles or speeches, but from the willingness to listen. We are here to listen, Ambassador. Her calm voice seemed to cool the air. Dren's eyes narrowed again, but he didn't respond. The summit began. Topics ranged from trade disputes to territory lines in shared sectors. At every turn, tension filled the air. Halfway through, a heated argument broke out between a Trivox officer and an Inari elder. The translator struggled to keep up. Voices rose. Elias stood up. Enough. Everyone looked at him. He turned toward the Trivox side. You're angry. I get it. You think the Inari are controlling space lanes. But what good does yelling do? You want results. Then talk, not shout. Then he turned to the Inari table. And you stop using ancient customs as shields. No, the Trivox don't follow those rules. If you want respect, offer understanding first. A deep silence filled the hall. Then Tellera stood beside him. Let us pause this meeting for 1 hour. I suggest a joint moment of silence in the garden dome outside. Let both sides walk together without speaking. Let hearts breathe before minds battle. Surprisingly, both sides agreed. Outside, under the glowing trees of Navax Station's dome, diplomats from both sides walked silently. No arguments, no politics, just breathing and observing. Elias sat on a bench, watching the others move. Sat beside him. You handled the fight well, she said softly. I just said what needed to be said, Elias replied. Sometimes people forget why they came to the table in the first place. You reminded them. He turned to her. And you calm rooms with just a sentence. I don't know how you do it. I just speak from peace, she said. It's not always about winning. Sometimes it's about healing. Elias looked at her, more carefully this time. Her eyes weren't just beautiful, they were full of clarity. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't chasing attention. She simply believed in what she said, and it showed. He swallowed. Tellera, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why me? He asked. When your people gave you the chance to choose a human, why choose someone like me? A tired, overworked captain who didn't even want a partner. She smiled, soft but sure. Because even in your tiredness, you care. You speak truth, even when it's hard. I didn't choose a perfect man. I chose a true one. Elias looked down. He had no answer to that, not yet. That evening, after the summit resumed, something remarkable happened. The Trivox ambassador stood up and announced a trial alliance, 30 days of shared operations between Inari and Trivox ships. The Inari accepted. The room applauded. Elias and Tellera were thanked publicly for their role in calming tensions and helping both sides focus. Later, as they prepared to leave the summit hall, several reporters approached. Captain Elias, you and Tellera now officially bonded for life, one asked. He paused. Ira looked at him calmly, waiting. Elias took a breath. We're not ready for labels, he said. But we are walking the path together. Back in their room, Elias removed his jacket and collapsed into a chair. Tellera set down her tea tray. You were honest today. I'm trying, he said with a weak smile. This whole thing started as a mistake, remember? Some mistakes are doors in disguise, she replied. He laughed softly. You really do speak like a poet. She stepped closer. Would you like to sit outside for a while? The stars here are brighter than on Earth. Elias nodded. Yeah, I think I would. They walked to the balcony, side by side. The stars above them sparkled like fireflies in the endless dark. Without thinking, Elias gently took her hand. She looked at him. He didn't say anything. He just held it calmly, and for the first time, he wasn't confused. He just felt, right. Captain Elias Wren stood near the large observation window of Navax Station, hands behind his back, watching as the stars slowly moved past. Space always looked calm from the outside, silent, beautiful, never changing, but everything inside him had changed. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed across the polished floor. You're up early, said Tellera gently, her voice calm like the morning breeze on a quiet meadow. Elias turned and smiled. Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind. She stepped beside him, hands clasped before her. The peace summit is over. Your mission is complete. He nodded. Yes, but it doesn't feel like an ending. Tellera looked out at the stars. That's because it's not. It's a beginning. The Trivox and Inari have agreed to work together. Earth has gained respect in the council, and we've grown. Elias chuckled lightly. You always say things in such a calm way. Like, everything will be okay. Because it usually will be, she replied with a soft smile. If we choose to grow. He turned to her, face serious now. Tellera, when we first met, I thought this whole thing was a mistake, an assigned partner. It sounded ridiculous. But now, I've started to wonder if the universe knew better than I did. Tellera tilted her head. And what do you believe now? I believe you're more than just a partner assigned by some intergalactic system. You've become important. To me, not just for work, not just for politics, but for life. Tellera didn't respond right away. She looked at him gently, her silver eyes calm and warm. Then we've come far, she said. And there's still more to walk. Later that day, the two were invited to speak at the Galactic Unity Ceremony, a yearly event where peacekeepers and cultural leaders shared their journeys. A large circular stage was filled with flowers, lights, and holographic art. Hundreds of species sat around the open hall. Elias and Tellera were introduced as the unexpected bond between species, a symbol of how differences could become bridges. Elias took a deep breath before speaking. I used to think I understood the galaxy. I was trained, disciplined, prepared, but I wasn't ready for this, not for someone like Tellera. He glanced at her, and she smiled back. I thought partnership was something you planned, but sometimes it chooses you, and when it does, it challenges everything you thought you knew. It humbles you, and, if you let it, it changes you for the better. A quiet wave of respectful applause filled the room. Then Tellera stepped forward. Peace is not something we demand, she said. It is something we live. It grows in silence, in shared struggles, in small understandings. I did not choose Elias because he was perfect. I chose him because, even in confusion, he remained kind. The applause grew stronger when the ceremony ended. Dozens of delegates came forward to thank them. Some asked for advice. Some simply wanted to express hope. That evening, as they returned to their quarters, Elias let out a long sigh. I didn't expect any of this. Not the attention, not the speeches, and definitely not feeling proud. You've earned it, Tellera said, and you're not alone. He looked at her. That's the part I keep thinking about. I've spent so many years alone, by choice, and now I can't imagine a day without you around. There was a long pause. Elias stepped closer. I don't know what the future looks like. Earth may call me back. You may have duties here, but if we're given a choice, he gently took her hand. I'd choose to stay with you. Tellera's eyes shimmered slightly, but not from sadness, from something warm. Then let's build a life that includes both worlds, she whispered, yours and mine. A week later, a small ship landed on Earth's moonbase, bringing Elias and Tellera back to human space. As they walked through the welcome hall, a group of humans stared at Tellera, whispering and pointing. Elias noticed, but said nothing. Instead, he took her hand again, firmly, proudly. Let them talk. She looked at him, a little unsure. Do they not like outsiders? They're just surprised, Elias replied. But give them time, you'll see you'll grow on them. And if I don't, he smiled, then they'll have to get used to me choosing you anyway. Back at Earth's Interplanetary Research Center, Elias was offered a high position, Director of Galactic Affairs, a desk job, one with paperwork, long meetings, and political smiles. He turned it down. I'm not meant to sit still, he told them. I want to continue as an ambassador, but I want a team, and I want my partner beside me. They agreed, and for the first time, Earth officially accepted an Inari as a cultural co-leader with a human ambassador. Tellera was no longer just an assigned partner. She was part of the future. In the months that followed, Elias and Tellera traveled together to several systems. They helped settle trade talks, assisted in refugee settlements. They spoke at schools, peace camps, and even a small colony where young Inari children gave them a crystal flower in thanks. Each day, their connection grew stronger, not because of rules, not because of duty, but because they chose each other again and again. One quiet evening, aboard their ship the Horizon Light, Tellera walked out onto the observation deck. Elias stood there, holding something behind his back. You're hiding something, she said with a gentle smirk. He turned, suddenly shy. I had this made, he said, holding out a small pendant. It was shaped like the Inari Bond orb, with a small star inside. Tellera touched it gently. It's beautiful, I thought. Maybe we could make our bond official, not by any council's rules, just ours. She didn't speak. Instead, she leaned forward and rested her forehead lightly against his, the Inari way of saying yes. Final scene. Somewhere in the deep galaxy, among stars and silence, a ship moved slowly the Horizon Light. Inside, a human and an Inari sat together, drinking warm tea, planning their next mission. Two souls from different worlds, two hearts that found home in each other. Not because they were told to, but because they chose to. And they would choose each other again tomorrow. And the day after that. And maybe for a lifetime. The end.